think health effects are a great reason to basically think about where you draw the line between your work and life. I recall a saying by Dalai Lama: life is about sacrificing health for wealth and then wealth for health towards the end. That's a cycle. I think the ideal life would be, you love what you do. That's also a problem, because if you love what you do too much, that becomes part of you, and we don't notice the rest of it. So health effects is one. The other is relationships with your wife, your children, your friends. That'll start to suffer because something's got to give.
Oh, spot on, Khan, spot on. I was going to talk about the mental health aspect, right? Because the kind of work we do is very mentally taxing. And I think there are a lot of studies that say that when you are overworked, it leads to like anxiety, depression, burnout. Yuresh, you mentioned as well for you. And what happens is it's never a clear separation, right? So this leaks into your personal life, and you become impatient with your family, with your kids, and that's a vicious cycle, because then comes back because you are not happy, so it comes back to work, and you're
Exactly.
not very productive again. So I think that's very, very important. You mentioned, physical health as well. That is, people often overlook that. It is so, so important, right? I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, so valid points, right? Like I actually look at this from 2 points, like two dimensions, I would say. One is like why work-life balance matters from a personal point of view and from a work point of view,
Mm,
right?
mm.
Because if you do not maintain that balance, it'll affect both, like to Roshan's point, and it could affect in different stages too, right? So like just working continuously within a day without like kind of balancing it out would affect your productivity purely from like a work point of view. And like if you just only focus on one over the other, like just you cannot just focus on work, or you should not just focus on life either, right? If you're doing like a full-time job. So it's a matter of like kind of being conscious about that you need to maintain that balance. And like we will talk about like some mechanisms and like things that we have done to kind of achieve that, but like all valid points.
There's one more thing I want to say as well. Very recently, I read this article around innovation. And what they say is people who generally come up with the out of the box thinking, the smart ideas, are ones who have well rested. Then they're not like in the grind, or like overworked, because when you're in that mode, you're just constantly thinking of, okay, what do I have to do, right? Versus when your mind is a little free, that's where your mind tends to wander and come up with creative ideas. I think that's an interesting aspect as well. Would you agree?
There are some contradiction to that. Like if you think about Steve Jobs, right? He's a workaholic and he didn't even take shower those days, and he was the stinkiest guy in the office, people
Is it?
say.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he was short tempered, but he did have lots of creativity
that's true.
and the willpower to do it. So I think it depends on people too sometimes. And I think in the work setting, we are like, I'm talking about myself. I'm always in adrenaline rush, right? Oh my God, I need to get this done because I know I'm going to suffer later if I don't do it now. But then work starts piling up when you're done with it. So it becomes a pattern. And yeah, I'm a victim of that work culture.
So we'll have a section for that, right, Yuresh?
Right. And Shan, just to add to your point, I think it's like this we can like, is a good segue to our next segment too of this conversation. Just another example we have heard is someone like Elon Musk, right? Sleeping at the workplace, right? So there's always these types of trends.
Mm,
But what does that really mean, right? Like how do we define balance? I think just
mm,
to kind of take that same example, I don't think they are necessarily doing it like every day forever, right? You kind of going through like that within a phase, maybe, right? So this is a really good example. Work-life balance doesn't mean that you are trying to do like a 50-50 split every day, right? So you might go focus on one thing over the other over a period of time. I think the point is that like averaging it out over a period of time. So you need to kind of define what works for you, or like what works based on like the situation, right? So we all can attest to this. Like we are all in the tech world. We have all gone through these crazy project phases, right? Like time is not a consideration. Obviously time is a consideration in terms of like achieving like a deadline, but like you're not necessarily working for like a strict 8 or whatever the work hours cycle, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like you are on that mode all the time. So identifying what balance really means, I think you had to take it case by case from person to person and kind of define your own thing. What do you guys think?
I 100% agree. I think balance is not the right word really. I think it's harmony, right? Work life
Right.
harmony, because it's like a cycle, right? There are times when you have to put in extra hours and time to get work stuff done, but then there's also times when you need to focus on your family,